Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
We've talked an awful lot about roster holes for the New Orleans Saints. And again, a lot of that energy has been focused on wide receiver and specifically the big-bodied wide receiver to be your possession receiver. But that's not the only one. There's one more on this team that is large and it needs addressing. And the Saints have taken a few steps to address it. But is that enough? And in certain steps that they have taken, it's a gamble. And there's a couple names on the free market that I want to talk about. The position is edge rusher. Remember, before Tyler Shuck's odds surged on draft day for him to be the 9th overall pick for the New Orleans Saints, or for him to at least be drafted by the New Orleans Saints, everyone thought it was edge rusher. It was Mykel Williams, remember? Because that's a position that you desperately need to address. You extended Carl Granderson. You extended Chase Young. Not the best contract, but you gave it to him. And then out of that, there wasn't much there for the Saints. And you need production off the edge. You feel great about the interior. With Brian Brzee, you brought in Devon Godchaux. Like, you feel great there. Brian Brzee led your team in sacks a year ago with 7.5. That should tell you all you need to know about your edge position. So again, the steps you took to address it were extending Chase Young. You already had extended Granderson. And then a free agent moves. Sign Chris Rumpf. Okay, I can get behind that. Look, man, I look at the production there, and it's not great. Just 3 sacks in his career over 3 seasons. He's dealt with some injury problems, but that's a guy Brandon Staley drafted to Los Angeles. That's a guy he trusts. He knows the player. That's a Brandon Staley sign. Okay, I can deal with that. Let's see if you can finally get the most out of him in New Orleans. But again, that's not a sure thing, and it's a bit of a gamble. You also brought in Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams has played 4 years in the NFL. He has 2.5 career sacks. He played with 3 different teams a year ago and did not record a sack in 2024. That's not great depth. Isaiah Foskey has been an absolute bust of a second-round draft pick. We all know that. Cam Jordan, the production has decreased. Look, I love Cam Jordan just as much as everybody else. Cam Jordan Day, that was awesome. He deserves it. He's a Saints Hall of Famer. He's probably a Pro Football Hall of Famer, but call it what it is. Cam Jordan is an aging veteran that has been reduced to a role player on this team. His last 2 seasons, he doesn't even equal the 8.5 sacks he had in 2022, combined in 23 and 24. You need somebody else there. So how do you go address it? There's free agency, and then there's what you did in the draft. The Saints take Fadil Diggs, 7th round. And look, it's going to be really interesting to watch him throughout rookie minicamp, see what he can do. But that's a gamble. Jasheen Davis, we talked about him. We talked about Diggs and Davis with Ross Jackson on Thursday's show. And he's really high on them, really high on Davis, potentially making this team as an undrafted rookie, which, I'll remind you, Carl Granderson did. But again, that's a gamble. It could happen. But can you go get a more sure thing? And the Saints can. There's a couple names specifically that I want to throw out individually, and one of them I favor more than the other. So it's not like you haven't made moves. The moves you've made just don't really inspire confidence. And if you're trying to put your best foot forward and win the division in spite of yourself, then let's talk about 2 guys, Matt Judon and Za'Darius Smith. The Saints have $27 million in cap space. Za'Darius Smith's going to cost a little bit more. That's for sure. And when you look at it, for Smith, Durability's been there fine. He's played in all 17 games the last 2 years. The production, still pretty steady in 2024. 9 sacks, which would put him as the leader on your team if he can replicate that. And what was encouraging about it, it was coming off of a year where he had 5.5. He's 32. He's up there in age. But that's the market the Saints are going to command right now, is aging veterans. The key is, can you find one with a little bit of, production left? Za'Darius Smith could do that, but he's a bigger name. He's going to command more money. Do you want to commit those assets to him? The other one, and the one that I think is more realistic, is Matt Judon. Spent last year with the Falcons, so he's got familiarity with the division. Obviously, a great run with New England, pretty good run with Baltimore. A year ago, 5.5 sacks for Atlanta. Played in all 17 games, started 15 of them. 5.5 sacks would put him right in line there with Chase Young and Carl Granderson. They each had 5.5. So if you can add another guy there off the edge, quality, you're capable of 5.5 sacks, that's great. Same age as Za'Darius Smith, but he's going to be cheaper. The average market value right now per Spotrac for a guy like Judon is $4.2 million. 1 year deal, that's great. You bring him in. And here's what you're honestly hoping for. Him to be more of a depth piece. Because Chase Young, Granderson, you've committed the money to those guys. They're your starters. And you're hoping that one of them blossoms and kind of bursts onto the scene. Specifically Chase Young. He's young still. You know the talent that's there. You saw it at points a season ago. Can he take the next step? That's what you're hoping for when you commit that contract to him. And if he does that, then all you really need is a depth piece like a Matthew Judon to go in there and who's a proven commodity and bolster that with Cam Jordan. Those two could be your veterans and your role players, where they're two younger guys, take on the bulk of the load. But I would even say, man, Granderson's a gamble because you've just seen it in spurts with him where it's like, man, if he could put it together for a whole season, and he hasn't quite been able to do that. You're looking for more certainty. And being the Saints right now, you're not going to be able to go out and, for one, the market doesn't, command it right now. There's just not that big edge rusher on the market. And even if there was, you couldn't afford him and you're not attractive to him. So you got to create that type of guy in the aggregate with a bunch of different players. I mean, it looks like you've tried to do that. The problem is the guys you've added, like Jonah Williams, like Chris Rump, they don't have any production to prove that they can do that. Judon does. On top of the familiarity with the division and all of that. That's the preferred route I would like to see the Saints go, is to go sign Matt Judon to a 1 year deal for $4.5 million. He could be a role player, depth piece for you. You have two good veterans and him and Jordan doing that. You lean on Granderson and Young. And you know what? If Fadil Diggs hits, if Jasheem Davis does make the roster as an undrafted rookie and you actually get contributions from him, well, then you could potentially turn the room into a strength going forward as you continue this rebuild. It's a big position of need for the Saints. They still need to address a little bit more of a surefire deal. You still got time to do it. But my preference would be go sign the veteran free agent here. You have the cap space to do it. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.